After ranking the Nightmare on Elm Street films, I thought maybe I'll wait for a Friday the 13th to do these movies. But one of the things I always say is, you can't have Freddy without Jason. Without a shadow of a doubt, Friday the 13th is my second favorite horror franchise on the planet, and it's very close. Jason is very special to me. When I finished those Freddy movies back in the day, Friday the 13th was right there to pick up the pieces. I guess I should be honest with you guys. I have ranked these movies before in the past. If you go on my channel, you'll find them. But I thought, you know what? Over the years, a lot of entries in this franchise I've changed my mind on. Some that I would put into the back burner of my brain would be the ones that I would watch more over the years and fall in love with. So let's take today, document this, and do my Friday the 13th franchise ranking. So without further ado, here we go. I don't really like having to put Freddy vs. Jason last on my list. Look, I still really like this movie a lot. But the fact of the matter is, I like all of these movies, and somebody's got to come in last. I kind of reiterated on my Nightmare on Elm Street ranking why I didn't have this film high on that list either, so I'll keep it very brief. When I watch Freddy vs. Jason, an overwhelming sense of cash grab is what comes to my heart. I understand that these movies are supposed to do that, but damn, no Kane Hodder just really breaks my heart. I do ebb and flow on my like for early 2000 style horror movies, and I actually just rewatched this one for the purpose of this ranking. Again, it's last on the list, but I still really love it. It's like picking a favorite kid. And I will give props to the look of Jason. I don't think it looks really bad at all. Again, nothing personal to Ken. Jason Goes Straight to Hell, as my brother affectionately called it that one faithful night. I remember watching this movie with him and having so much fun. Much more fun than I ever had before. I think that might be the key. Jason Goes to Hell is a great party movie to watch with buddies, especially if you've got a buddy with a good sense of humor, because I do think Jason Goes to Hell is hilarious. This being the first movie from New Line, it makes me laugh. It's wild. Here's New Line wanting to pick up the Friday the 13th franchise and capitalize on the character of Jason. Their first movie barely has Jason. This movie absolutely wins me over with its characters. Leads like John D. LeMay are great and easy to get behind. Others like Creighton Duke absolutely entertain me to no end, and I just love every line that they deliver in this movie. This movie is not really unintentionally funny. I think they were having a good time to begin with. The reason I put this one over Freddy vs. Jason has to be because of the diner scenes. This just puts it over the top for me. The Voorhees burgers, the diner owner is hilarious. This entire diner, I just want to live there. I definitely want to go get a Voorhees burger. The 2-for-1 sale better still be on when I get over there too, or I'll be pissed. In space, no one can hear you scream. Now I gotta be real, Jason X has grown on me immensely over the years, and I'm really happy to say that. I've come to embrace space. When horror movies go to space, I try to look at it as a positive. Here's an entry that's going to be nothing but fun and not take itself seriously. Not too many space movies take itself seriously, unless you're Alien or anything like that. And this being an early 2000s horror movie, this goes higher than Freddy vs. Jason because between the two, if I'm looking at both of them, I'm always going to want to grab Jason X first. I love this movie. The look of Uber Jason is one of my favorite looks ever. Some might think it's silly and hokey. I'm terrified of it. Look how beastly and bastardly that thing looks. I can't get enough of Uber Jason. He looks unstoppable. Jason X looks like he could go up against Godzilla or King Kong and totally hold his own. Now that is a movie I'd like to see. It's the darkest side of the night. Now, if you know me at all, you know I love this movie. Jason Takes Manhattan is special in a lot of ways. It's very symbolic. It's the end of an era. It's the end of a franchise. It's the end of the 80s. Everything about this movie I just love. The feeling it gives me is very special. When compiling this ranking, I thought that I needed to have a little bit of objectivity when making this list. This is why Jason Takes Manhattan is higher up on this list as opposed to my top 5 or 6. Don't get me wrong though, again, I love all these movies. But that's not to say that this one is without merit. Some of my favorite scenes are when Julius is fighting Jason on top of the building and he gets his head knocked off. Now that's what I'm talking about. The look of Jason has always been a pretty big point of contention with fans with this entry. I'll admit, let's look at this picture together. It's pretty hokey looking. It looks like a deformed jack-o'-lantern. But I'll be honest, when he dons that hockey mask and Kane Hodder is strolling through New York, that look of Jason is pretty freaking awesome. I love this movie, but it's got to be number 9 on this list. Now, I'll be the first to admit, the Friday the 13th remake could have been better, but at the same time, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. I enjoyed this one a lot on my last visit. Now, I will say this, I have become a really big fan of Supernatural, so my Jared Padalecki points have gone up big time. I will concede that the cast in the very beginning is better than the cast that you see throughout the rest of the film, but luckily Derek Mears holds it together for me. With a strong, foreboding performance from Derek, I fear this Jason as much as any other Jason in the series. I do wonder how much studio meddling had to do with this film, but looking back, I don't think it's that bad. I actually enjoy this film quite a lot. The Friday the 13th remake is alright in my book. I like it. Friday the 13th Part 7. Now, at this point, it's getting really hard to rank these because I adore every entry so much from here on out. The debut performance of Kane Hodder is also my favorite that he's done. This Jason is one of the most brutal in the entire series. It also has my favorite non-Jason character of all time, Bad News Cruz. That's right. Terry Kaiser absolutely steals this movie for me, and he's one of my favorites in the entire series. What a great performance. Not that I hold it against the filmmakers per se, but I'll always lament the film in my head that I know we were supposed to see. Barbara Sachs, the associate producer, asked more things in this film than Jason himself, and that's really a shame. I want to see this uncut version of New Blood so bad. Is that disco theme playing in your head yet? It sure is in mine. At this point, there's really nothing bad for me to say about any of these entries. I love them. Part 3 is no different. Richard Brooker is one of the best Jasons and one of the fan favorites. There's a massive dedicated fan base for him, and I can totally see why. Sporting a strong cast, Friday the 13th Part 3 is one I can easily throw on at any time. And when I want that early 80s feel, it's usually the one I grab the most. Just to be nerdy for a second, this look of Jason was always something I really loved. I've actually seen sculptors make busts of this that you could buy. I wish we could see this footage. In my head, it's amazing. The Man Behind the Mask. Jason Lives is the entry that's jumped up tremendously from years and years ago. I don't know why I wasn't clicking with this film, but I am now. One thing I love about this film is its opening. I will go on record saying I think that Jason Lives has the best opening in the entire franchise. I'm a big Return of the Living Dead fan, as some of you may know, so seeing Tommy Jarvis portrayed by Tom Matthews in this movie is something I'm really happy to see. This movie certainly has a lighter shade of gray than the rest of the franchise, and I see it as a breath of fresh air. I like it, and I like the jokes. Jason Lives lands for me, and I like it a lot. And the soundtrack, of course, is amazing by Alice Cooper. If Jason still haunts you, you're not alone. I'm no stranger to shouting my love of Friday the 13th Part 5 up from the rooftops, and it's creeping up on my list higher and higher every time I do these. This movie is absolutely sleazy as all hell, and I couldn't be more happy about it. This movie makes it on the spot that it does because of pure entertainment. I do have questions. Like, if Roy Burns' son was at that mental hospital and he lived that close to him, why wasn't the kid living with him? And why didn't Roy say, "That's my son"? Why am I thinking too hard about this? If I ever made a favorite kills in the entire series, I'll just spoil it right now. My number one kill is the Crapper kill. This scene with Demon is absolutely amazing. Talk about sheer entertainment. I can't help but laugh when I watch this movie. It gives me everything I can possibly want in a slasher film. Funny characters, hilarious dialogue, good-looking women, Debbie Sue Voorhees, and just great kills. Part 5 is just money. Friday the 13th Part 2 is an entry that has catapulted on my rankings throughout the years. Quite frankly, I never denied the greatness of this movie. I probably just didn't watch it that often. I would skip it and start with 3. I used to be one of those hockey mask only kind of guys. I've gotten over that. I have consistently seen people say that Jenny is the best final girl in the series, and I really have no argument. She really is great. Talk about a likable character that makes smart decisions and is believable. Rewatching this movie not long ago, I found that part 2 seems to be the spookiest of all the Friday the 13th. I get that foreboding sense with this one more so than, quite frankly, any other Friday the 13th entry. Talk about that creepy shot of Mrs. Voorhees' head on the table at the end, too. Man, this one has really grown on me. I love part 2 a lot. It should go without saying that between the two, this is my favorite Steve Miner directed Friday the 13th film. With great kills, great characters, a great Jason, and a spooky atmosphere, this one's really high on my list for a reason now. Sean S. Cunningham's original Friday the 13th is quite frankly a film that I feel I rediscovered a few years ago. This one would always be really low on my list, and I could never really decipher why, or articulate it that well. The truth is, again, I would just kind of skip this one. I feel like such a fool. The original Friday the 13th is such a well-made slasher film. I, just like you, pop for that ending of the movie with Jason coming out of the water. What a great scene and what a great visual. One of my favorite moments in the series. But I'll be honest, all my love and praise for this film goes to one person. Betsy Palmer as Mrs. Voorhees in this movie continues to tug on my heartstrings. I just sense so much despair in her face. Just look at her. It's a great ending to the movie, and I love seeing her in this film now. I look forward to it. Sean S. Cunningham's original Friday the 13th, in my opinion, is a slasher movie masterpiece, with nice timing in movies that I quite honestly miss, letting atmosphere build up in scenes. Times were different back then. This is the one you've been screaming for. Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I think that this is one of the best horror slasher movies in the world. Never has a movie flowed so well to me before when watching it. Watching the final chapter feels like you're watching a main event movie, and for a lot of obvious reasons. The final chapter is one movie where you're not always begging to see Jason in it. The characters are very nicely laid out, and their stories make sense. The personalities are different, and they're intriguing. You actually start to really care about these people. Being a big fan of the eccentric personality Crispin Glover, seeing him in this movie is really nice. I love his dance so much that I actually had to cover the song that he dances to for my Patreon. Crispin Glover absolutely steals his scenes in the movie too. Put that in your computer, Teddy. The finale of Friday the 13th, the final chapter, is what I think is the best this series has to offer. Ted White's portrayal as Jason is both mean, menacing, and stark. Corey Feldman's obviously a great addition to this series, but I gotta be honest, Trish in this movie is my favorite final girl, period. I've never cared so much about a girl in a movie before. I just love her. Also, is it me, or do you also feel like Derek Mears' Jason was very heavily homage to Friday Part 4's Ted White Jason with that sheer brutality? Regardless, the final chapter is my favorite Friday the 13th movie. Well, guys, that's it. My Friday the 13th ranking. It's certainly changed over the years, but I can tell you this, I certainly left it all out on the table now. That's my honest ranking. Friday the 13th is without question my second favorite horror franchise, period, right behind Freddy. And it's no denying that Friday the 13th is probably the most popular horror franchise ever, and for good reason. It connects with millions across the globe. So I ask you, what is your favorite Friday the 13th movie?